PocaTV. Wenzzzday.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. How's life?
Evening.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
not
got
so
the
bad.
wrong background. Let me just change the background quickly. There we go. So, phew, it's a sweltering hot day here today, DJ. I don't know how it's at your end.
It's sweltering hot.
Is it? So if
Yeah.
anybody hears a rumble in the background, that's my fan blowing, all right? So just so everybody knows.
Well, I have my fan blowing as well.
Mm-hmm.
What is it now? It's according to the weather app, it's 31.
Yeah.
It feels like 37. So
Oh, boy. Anyway.
yeah.
So here we
humid.
are yet again on our 12th Wenzzzday Ting.
Yeah.
And do enlighten us. You came up with the topic for today, which I'm telling everybody, we are sharing a topic again because I am so swamped with work. I don't even know what's going on in the world. So DJ came up with a great subject. Can you enlighten us?
Yes, but before that, I just want to do a little update, a tiny update on last week's show about the kiss. In the news today is that Hermoso, the lady, has formally filed legal action. I just thought I'd mention that.
Excellent. We will monitor that as it goes along.
Yeah.
So for today, we're going all the way to the other side of the world. Please tell us what we'll be doing.
Well, yeah, it's the other side of the world for me, and it is for you. But if you're in New Zealand, for example, it ain't the other side of the world, or Japan,
so
or wherever.
True, DJ. That is so true. Yes.
So this is Australia, and we're going to be talking about what's now known as an Indigenous voice, which is on the 14th of October. Oh, you're gone.
Go ahead. Keep talking.
On the 14th of October, there's going to be a historic referendum in Australia, which is to vote in, hopefully, or vote out a formal body for Indigenous people to represent themselves. The Indigenous people of Australia, also known as First Nation Australians, are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. Those are the two main. Those are the two groups, if you like, of people affected here who are calling for this. It's a tough one because, first of all, there are 1 million First Nations people in Australia out of a total population of 25 million. So they've already got a battle to start with. They're a huge minority. They're only 4% of the overall population. And also, for what it's worth, track record of referendums in Australia, whatever the topic, is that they very rarely pass.
All right. Let us quickly, so we all know how this will play out, look at a news report from Australia in which this whole referendum thing is explained. Here we go.
Yeah.
Meh. It's not playing.
No.
Hold on. I need to upload it again. No problem. That's quickly done. I don't know why it's not playing, but it isn't. So we need to restart it. Headaches. Where is it? It's here. Let's see if it works now.
The referendums. They're the heavyweight champions of national decisions, with the power to reshape the constitution. We've tried it 44 times since Federation, and we've gotten a yes just 8 times. Our last referendum was in 1999, when we were asked if we wanted to become a republic with a president as our head of state. 55% of voters nationally, and all 6 states, said no. The most resounding yes vote in the history of Australian referendums was in 1967, when we were asked if we approved giving the Commonwealth the ability to make laws for Aboriginal Australians and to count them as part of the national population. In that case, 90% of voters and all 6 states voted yes. Later this year, Australians will once again head to the ballot box to vote on another referendum. The question on which we will be asked to vote either yes or no will read as follows. A proposed law to alter the Constitution to recognise the First Peoples of Australia by establishing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice. Do you approve this proposed alteration? And what is this voice? If the referendum results in a yes vote, a new section will be inserted at the end of the Constitution, establishing a permanent advisory body that will have the power to make representations to the Parliament and the Executive Government of the Commonwealth on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. The proposed new section will give the Parliament the power to decide details of how the voice will operate, including its composition, functions, powers and procedures. The Albanese government has released a number of design principles for the proposed voice, including that its members will be chosen by Indigenous Australians and that it will not have a veto power over Parliament or government or a program delivery function. And with the referendum date now set, Australians will soon be heading to the polling booths to cast their verdict on the proposed change.
Right.
So the one thing that immediately strikes me is that it's about even recognizing them
Yes.
and then
some,
giving them a voice.
Well, some of the critics who are representing the no campaign, because obviously there's a yes campaign and there's a no campaign, are saying, well, for just under 5% of Parliament is actually represented, of MPs is represented by Indigenous Australians, but those MPs counteract that by saying, yes, but we represent constituencies. We are not a voice just for the Indigenous people of the whole of Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're
do,
telling me it's that crazy old British system of constituencies.
Yeah.
Because that's where a whole lot of trouble comes from, even in Jamaica.
Yeah,
Explain that to normal people like myself. How does this whole constituency thing work?
A constituency is a geographical area, which might be a small area or a large area, and the voters, the electorate in those who live in those areas get the right to vote for someone to represent that area in Parliament, in the national Parliament. How
are those areas formed? What are boundaries of areas?
Well, a lot of that is legacy, isn't it?
It's the church, isn't it?
It's to do with the church and parishes and things like that back in the day. But you get some crazy situations where you get enormous geographical areas with very small population, and then on the other side you get small geographical areas with large populace, and that's mainly urban areas. And does the number of people within such a constituency, such an area, does that matter in how much the vote of the constituency counts? No. So you could have a constituency with 1 million people, and you're just voting with 1 million voters, and you're just voting for one MP. You can have another constituency with, say, 100 voters, and you're voting for one MP. So in that example, both of those MPs have equal kind of rights and powers in Parliament. Okay, so that's crucial to know. Yeah, it's not proportional representation, which has been where a lot of countries have argued. UK has been arguing it for years, but it's never been passed because it's you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, whoever is the ruling party at the time, because they're going to say, why change it? Why change a winning formula? Because we're in power. because we won. Exactly. Yeah, but when they're in opposition, they say we need to do it. So yeah. Taking this back to Australia, what exactly, in layman's terms, DJ, is the issue? Is it that I'm going to call them the Aboriginals, and I mean both groups. I mean the First Nations of Australia. Is it that they feel, even though they have some ministers of, what you call the people, the MPs? MPs, yeah. Yeah, what, Minister of Parliament? Is that what it's called? Yes. Is it that they say the MPs that we now have only represent their constituency, but I, living in Queensland or in wherever else, I'm not represented? Is that the case? Yeah, it's the case that so the current MPs, and don't forget, it's just under 5%, which is quite almost equitable to equal to the population ratio of First Nations. It's almost the same. Doesn't mean it's the right way to go, but it's just the point I'm making there. My mind's gone.
Your mind's gone. What is it they want? What is it they want?
Yes. So what they want a voice that a unique voice that represents all First Nation Australians, regardless, as you say, of what constituency they live in.
Okay.
And now because they're saying a lot of the white people, which is the majority, the overwhelming majority in Australia, don't even understand how Aborigines live. They don't understand their concepts of survival, the way their education standards, that kind of thing. And one of the crucial areas that I found quite concerning was that there's a much lower life expectancy rate among First Nation people, regardless of what constituency they're in. Yeah.
Let's not forget the history of the whole thing. First, there were First Nation people. Then along came the Dutch. Of course, it's always the Dutch. They said, yay, this is now our land. Then they gave it to the Brits. And the Brits said, yay, we're going to put all our what you call them, people, criminals and everybody we don't like in our own country. We're going to ship them off to Australia and we're going to make that a white country. That's what happened, basically. We're going to kill off those darned people living there already because they are not total people. It's the same thing they've done everywhere. They are not total people. They look funny. They eat funny. They smell funny. We're just going to kill them off. And we're going to make a white nation out of Australia. That's what happened in history.
And that's very true. And you only have to go back in history where First Nations people, can I call them black people to make it easier? Maybe I shouldn't.
Let's call them politically correct. Let's call them Aboriginals. Let's call them Indigenous. Let's call them something.
Indigenous, that they happen to be black. And they have, over the centuries, been at the wrong end of massacres and violence, and had their lands and livelihoods taken away from them just because of how they look.
Then they were fed liquor. Like it's the same. It's
racism. It's racism.
That's what it is.
It's racism.
Okay. Yeah. So now this is a couple of years old. We got a speech from a lawyer representing that group of Australians, of original Australians. And this is what he had to say. Yeah. We're going to have that today. Okay. That means I'm going to have to re-upload all my videos. Hold on while I re-upload this, DJ. Sometimes this happens. This was number 2. Okay. You see, when you prepare too much up front, sometimes glitches happen. Here it comes.
We've got to have a foundational negotiation. But before we can do that, we can't just enter into it willy-nilly. We need a constitutional voice for the First Nations. A position from which we can never be shifted. A position from which to negotiate with all of the moral and historical power that is ours by virtue of our possession of this land for more than 60,000 millennia. So, for those of us who've come late to this strategy, you need to wake up. Treaty door is the second door. The first door is constitutional enshrinement.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to correct him there. In his passion, he said 60,000 millennia. No, it's 60,000 years that they have been there, the Aboriginals. Okay, so we need to correct that. That was in a passionate moment that he made that mistake. So what would you like to add to what Neil Pearson had to say?
I mean, the last part, which was quite telling, where he said, we need this to get through this vote first, to get to have it written into the constitution before we can start talking about a treaty. A lot of First Nations people themselves are actually saying that they're with the no campaign for this, because they believe if they vote yes, then and it gets into the constitution, then there's much less chance of them having favorable negotiations when negotiating a treaty in terms of sovereignty, which is what one of the things they've been fighting for decades, for centuries. So it is it's quite convoluted. There's people who you would automatically assume would vote yes, but they're now saying they're going to vote, that they want to vote no because they don't agree with the order in which things are being done, with the process.
Yeah, but that's just stalling. I mean, one has to beg the question: why hasn't it been taken care of decades ago already?
Exactly. Well, first of all, they're in a minority. They're 5% of the population. That's small. That's not. They're on a losing battle to begin with.
No, but they didn't used to be 5% of the population. They used to be 100% of the population.
Well, yeah,
that's the point I'm making.
Okay, fair enough. Well, then they got overthrown, so to speak. They got annihilated.
Is the word
annihilated? But where they are now is that they want to actually make some get some things done that's going to improve lives for them. It's a tricky one. I mean, I also found out that 1 in 3 of the prison population in Australia are First Nations people. Now,
it's the same with black people in the United States.
I know there's a lot of you can read into that. Is that because black people are more likely to be stopped and prosecuted than white people, regardless of whether they committed a crime or not, or regardless of the gravity of the crime? So there's that to be considered. But a lot of people say a lot of the and this is a lot of people on the no campaign are saying that a lot of the First Nations people are too illiterate. They don't understand, or they don't comply with the existing laws of Australia properly. The crime rates are too high, etc.
Look, there is a situation here that we need to talk about, because this is the rhetoric that we hear every single time, whether it's Australia or it's South America or it's the United States. They always go, I'm just going to say it bluntly, white people always go, yeah, but they're all drunks and they don't comply with our rules, and they are criminals and they are lazy. That's the rhetoric we've been hearing for 500 years now.
Yeah.
Where what we need to be talking about is, what is Whitey doing in Australia in the first place?
Exactly.
That's what we need to be talking about.
Exactly. And that leads me on nicely to the leader of the Australia's opposition party. I'm not sure the name of the party, but whatever it is, Peter Dutton. And he said
a Dutch name.
Is it? Oh, I didn't know that.
Sounds Dutch.
Well, that speaks volumes. And he says that the voice, remember this is called the Indigenous voice, the voice will permanently divide the nation based on race, creating an Orwellian effect, as in 1984, that gives First Nations communities greater rights and privileges. But why should they have
less rights and privileges
compared to in the first place?
Exactly.
And he's an opposition leader. He's not even.
No, he's a white supremacist. He's a white supremacist. That's what he is.
Yeah,
let's not make it prettier than it is.
Yeah.
And the trouble is, of course, he's going to get a lot of people on his side, because what they all know they really shouldn't be there. Humor me, DJ. I just did a little digging. I just like doing historic stuff, as you know. Did you know at some point in history, in what we call the Jurassic period, this is what the Earth looked like. This is between 200 and 300 million years ago, when all of the Earth's mass was all one clump. look at it
Right.
carefully. You can see the contours of Africa. You can see South America. You can see North America. You can see
Antarctica.
Antarctica. You can see
Yeah.
Australia,
Right.
India. It used to all be
Russia.
one
Yeah.
clump.
Yeah.
Russia, Greenland,
Yeah.
and all of that.
Yeah.
So this is, notice where Australia is. We were all, you see that we are all one.
Where is Australia here? I can't even.
Bottom right.
Yeah, the yellow.
Little, the
okay.
yellow one. Okay.
Yeah, got it. Yeah,
And
yeah.
humor me yet again. The same period. I'm just going to show an animation of how the Earth got to be how we currently perceive it to be. Because as you know, the Earth is in constant movement with the tectonic plates moving all over the place, pushing, pulling, pushing, pulling. There's a small animation that I'd like to share, so we all know how that clump of Earth became what we now call the globe. All right? I hope it starts.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Come on, start.
Oh,
I said I was gonna re-upload all of them. Let me do that quickly. You talk something intelligent while I do that.
something intelligent.
Yeah, you say something very intelligent about
Well,
white people think they can go around the world
and
saying,
there's
"Look
another
here."
thing, but another thing that they're saying, no campaigners. I'm going to again, but again, you can say that could happen in almost any referendum in any country, and they're arguing is that it will undermine government processes and clog up the courts with the objections that.
Which is why you need to change the constitution. It's
exactly.
a no-brainer. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for filling this in. Let's look at the tectonic plates from the Jurassic period till this day. There goes India.
Yeah, no, India's amazing.
There goes us.
Amazing. I loved India, the way that happened. That was
And that's how
astonishing.
the Himalayan mountains were formed, when India just struck into Asia and then pushed up. That's what happened.
So that's Everest, isn't it? That's how
Everest forming
Everest.
there. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. The point I'm trying to make is.
By the way, big tune. It's called Hunter.
Yes, Mr. Scotese, who made this animation, actually put in some Chopin, but I thought that YouTube and Facebook were gonna take it down, so I just took off that sound and put in something Jashaka. Let me have a quick look at the comment section. Wow, that's amazing, says Emily. Hi, Emily. Thank you for watching. Yes, it definitely is amazing. And guess what? That's one of many, many times that it happened, that the Earth just goes and come back, go that way and come back. It's fascinating. And that's the planet that we are destroying, but that's a whole different topic. Donna is here. Hi, Donna. Thank you for watching. Happy to see you here. And we got Jaap Waverijn watching us on LinkedIn. Hi there, Jaap. Good evening to you as well. At first I thought, but then I thought, no, that couldn't be. I thought that the Aboriginals had come with that movement. They did not, of course, because we're talking 200 million years ago. But I do know how they did get to come to Oz. Let's have a look at that video and then we'll continue talking, DJ.
A lock of hair found 90 years ago in the goldfields of Western Australia has turned out to be DNA gold for scientists. It's providing key evidence about how the first humans colonised the planet 70,000 years ago. Using the hair, scientists have mapped the DNA history of Aboriginal Australians and found they're the direct descendants of the first modern humans to leave Africa.
This lock of hair has rewritten the history of human migration. It was taken from a young Aboriginal man near Kalgoorlie in the 1920s, and scientists have used the DNA to map the origins of the first Australians.
We find, in fact, evidence that Aboriginal Australians diversified from other populations much, much earlier than what people previously thought, about 70,000 years ago.
The research, published in the international journal Science, debunks the common theory that all modern humans migrated in a single wave out of Africa. Instead, the scientists believe descendants of Aboriginal Australians left first, followed by a second group of humans who would eventually settle in Europe and Asia.
Aborigine Australians are descending from the first human explorers. I mean, these are the guys that went into unknown land while my ancestors and Asian ancestors were hanging around somewhere in Africa or in the Middle East.
It's the first time scientists have mapped an Aboriginal genome and say the research shows Indigenous Australians were not only the first humans to settle here, but they're also one of the oldest continuous cultures outside of Africa. For Aboriginal elder Ivan Forrest, it's a profound discovery.
This proves, and it proves to the rest of the world, that we were the first people here. We've been here for a long time and we're not going away.
Scientists say the techniques used in the research will now be turned to study other Indigenous populations and their origins.
Wow,
So
what's the technology? Amazing stuff.
I know, but this just goes to show that's why I'm showing it. They were there first. They were there 70,000 years ago.
But I don't think anyone's disputing that.
No, but we're acting as if they weren't there because the people who came and colonized the place only got there about 500 years ago. And then they went on a rampage and killed off everybody. And then before we knew it, there were only a handful of Aboriginals whom we always depict this way. But there's many ways of depicting them. I'll show you modern day.
So they've been lying to themselves because they know full well if they've only been there for 500 years, they know that they weren't the original settlers there.
And they actually have no rights. That's the main thing. They have no rights.
Well, they've stolen the land, appropriated the land, or whatever you want to call it.
And killed off beautiful people like this. So I wonder, what's your take on this? What should happen now?
Well, they should vote yes in the referendum. If
Do you
I
think
was there,
they
I'd
will?
vote. Well, based on Australia's track record, I'd say no in terms of referendums. But I wouldn't refer to that track record to really and truly, because there have been 8 occasions where they've actually said yes, if from the video you showed earlier.
Out of 44 occasions of referendum.
Yeah, but why not?
And the thing,
why not a 9th out of 45? You know.
Well,
so
because people are going to use the same old excuses again.
And
these Aboriginals don't know, they cannot read, they are lazy, they
commit crime.
Uncivilized.
There's more criminals there, and that's what they say, and that's what.
Go ahead.
Only today or yesterday there was a report that a lot of the No campaign is using racist ideology to sway people who were thinking about voting yes to change their mind to vote no, and they're actually saying that the Aborigines are grifters. Typically, they're saying they are typically grifters, illiterate, uneducated, and 1 out of 3 of them end up in prison.
Yeah, let me show you how uncivilized they are. These are paintings that have been found that are at least 50,000 years old. Cave paintings by the Aboriginals on in the cave of at Uluru, which white people call Ayers Rock. We are decolonizing names. The mount is called Uluru, and in another place called something with a Q. I forget the name. Look how beautiful. Does this prove anything about being uncivilized?
No, it doesn't. It proves almost the opposite.
It does.
Yeah.
And it is said that these paintings depict what Aboriginals call dream time. And I heard a scientist once say that the dream time that they are talking about is actually the time when it was still, one clump of land.
Right.
that they got the messages that they got from that time, you know, how to live, how to hunt, how to raise your children, how to survive, that those lessons, that's all they want, is to live by their own principles of how life is. And it just pisses me off that once again it's Western people coming up with a million reasons why they should, you know, oppress
Well,
indigenous people.
People need to think for themselves and not just listen. And I'm talking about people who are thinking about voting no. They rather than listen to the no campaigners, they should act, or just listen to the no campaigners, I should say. They should also give the yes campaigners a chance. You know, listen to what they've got to say and try and within their own minds just. I mean, I'm being very idealistic here, I know.
Let me give you a very modern day example of why this is going to be a no. I mean, I
deep down, I think it will be a no as well.
Let me tell you something that happened not so very long ago. You know, I love watching BBC programs, one of them being Wanted Down Under, in which British people who are fed up with the weather just migrate to Australia, and the program is about them finding out if Australia fits them. So they go looking for houses, they go looking for jobs, they go looking for lifestyle, etc. And then they decide yes or no, whether or not. I have only one time ever seen a case in that program in which a family was denied entry to Australia. Guess what? The husband was black.
Yeah. No, don't surprise me. That's I'm not surprised one bit. It's no shock to me. No, it's a tragedy, but it's no shock.
Tragedy doesn't cut it. That's criminal. You know, if we're going to talk about criminal and who we want to kick out, let's start there.
True. I mean, I bet you there are probably more white Australians who are criminals who are walking free than
if only by the numbers. If they make up 96% of the population, there's going to be more white criminals than there's going to be black ones.
Yeah, it stands to reason. Yeah, stands to reason.
But if you look at the news, you think it's the other way around. Yeah.
Well, because I would hazard a guess that the overwhelming majority of the Australian police force, I mean, how many of those are First Nations people? Probably not very many.
Zero.
Maybe one or two.
And remember where the white population stemmed from. These were the criminals that England put on a ship. These were rapists. These were murderers. That's the kind of people that formed Australia.
And then they made families, and the genes got passed down, and their ways of lives and everything else, their thinking got passed down, and then so things don't improve and probably get worse.
Donna has an interesting remark. She says she thinks that's where the phrase "no man's land" came from, suggesting that the colonists found no one on the land. That's right, Donna. That's what they used to say. We came with our little ship, and we came aboard, and we saw nothing. We saw white beaches and palm trees, which is still what they are trying to sell to each other: white beaches and palm trees. You know that tourists don't like beaches to be yellow or black or brown or anything. They sue travel companies if the sand isn't white enough to their taste. So it all goes back to the same old thing, and I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of it, DJ.
Yeah. So
what are we going to do about it?
Well, this is one of the reasons we do what we do on this Wenzzzday thing, isn't it? We try and expose topics with the hope that other people will watch and try and make a difference,
and maybe even read up on something once in a while that's not next to their own
yard. I mean, I wonder if there's any Australians watching this or who will watch.
Well, if there are, let us know. By all means, send us a comment, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or
I have an old friend who lives in Australia. He's an Australian, actually, who I knew from London. So maybe I'll
send him a text. Send him a text.
I don't have his phone number, but I can get
Oh,
in
you
touch
don't?
with him. No,
Well,
on Facebook. On Facebook, I can get in touch with him.
well, you
So-
should, I even forgot to put up the QR code today, and look how pretty it is. If anybody wants to just join us here,
It's a QR code. Look how pretty it is. She
it
said.
is a very pretty QR. Nobody makes cuter QR codes than the PocaTV people.
Right.
And
Yeah.
if you're watching on a laptop, you can head over to that URL, which is case
Yeah.
sensitive, and join us here. But I'm for some reason don't think anybody's going to join us today. What say you on that?
No, I agree with you on that one.
And I'm a bit late also putting it up. So let me take it down. I just wanted to show off the pretty QR code. Let me take it down. There's one thing that we haven't talked about yet. With these centuries of colonization that went on, as you know, the Aboriginals were stripped of their identity. They were stripped of their history. They were stripped of their language. They were stripped of their customs. They were stripped of everything that makes them the people that they are. These, look again, let me put them up again. Wonderful people, beautiful people, warriors, all of that. I particularly like this picture.
Yeah, man, yeah.
So they were stripped of all of that, to the point that many First Nation people don't even know their original language anymore. And because of that,
That's true. That's true. In fact, even amongst Aborigines themselves in Australia, it's not just one language. They speak multiple languages even today in Australia. I
Yes.
didn't know that. I never knew that.
but young people don't, because they're not allowed to speak it at school, just the way I wasn't allowed to speak any lingua franca when I was small. Just as patois in Jamaica is considered to be lowly. Instead, you need to speak the Queen's English. Well, the King's English now, because the Queen gone. But I'm glad to report that there are small organizations trying to remedy that. They are trying to teach Aboriginal children the basics of their languages again. And I thought I'd just show you how that works. And maybe we can pick up a word or two. Let's try at least.
Okay.
Kabada pula bambaringa, ambaringa, ambaringa. Kabada pula bambaringa, anona ija dolama. Alga il baragadala, ragadala, ragadala. Alga il baragadala, anona ija dolama. Kabada pula bambaringa.
Say it.
Ambaringa, ambaringa. Kabada pula bambaringa. Anona ilja dolma. Alpna ilba ragadala, ragadala, ragadala. Alpna ilba ragadala. Anona ilja dolma.
Yeah. Eyes,
I think-
eyes, ears, throat, eyes, ears,
Yes.
mouth.
Chin and nose,
Yeah,
and clap our hands together.
yeah. That's cute. Yeah.
Inca is foot.
Okay.
And
But that's
Umpra is knee.
okay. But that's one particular language of many, isn't it?
Yes, it's I don't know which language it is. It's a First Nation language. But the
Sure.
fact that it needs to be taught to people again, that kind of saddens me.
Well, you could argue. No, I mean, when these people go to school at the moment, when these Aborigines go to school, are they going to Aborigine only schools or are they going to mixed schools? I don't even know the answer to that.
It depends, because let's put it this way. This is just me coming up with an idea. If they're in an area where a lot of Dutch people are colonized the place, I'm pretty sure it's going to be separate schools, because the Dutch even do that here in the Netherlands. If it's in an area where the Brits are predominant, I give them more of a chance of it being a mixed school.
Right.
This is
Right.
just me with the knowledge I have.
And the part where I was going with that, if they're in a mixed school, they're likely to be taught to use the English and not their native language.
I think
Whereas
even if they're in an Aboriginal school, that they will be forced to learn the English language.
no, but
Much the
as
same.
well as their own language.
No. Your first language, the language that you are born into, should not be a language taught to you in school. It should be the language in which your math is, in your science, and your history.
Your mother tongue.
Look at Jamaica. How children aren't allowed to speak patois. They have to learn King's English.
Yeah.
It's in other Caribbean islands are now finally, even in Suriname, they are making their lingua franca, which is a free language which has no grammatical rules. They are now working towards making those languages official with verbs and with all of that. So that in Curacao, for example, school now is in their lingua franca, in Papiamento. And they have officially adopted that as their language, which is what should happen in other places as well. And definitely in a place like Australia, where, it's if anything, it's even more crass than in the other, in the places where slavery took place. Well, they decimated those people as well. I get sick and tired of talking about white countries decimating other people.
Yeah, but it's not going to stop, is it? Until things change.
So what needs to change in Oz? Let's try to 14th of October is when this referendum is going to take place.
Vote yes and give it a chance.
Right. What could be the danger of giving that 4% use? I read 3 or 4% of your population actually have a say in their own land about what goes on in Parliament, and why on earth will they be denied a veto right?
Well,
they
yeah,
will.
that I know that's because vetoes can cause problems, can't they?
That's what they are for. That is what vetoes are for.
I know. So they're trying to preempt it and saying if the vote is yes, then it's going to. They're already saying we're in for difficult times, therefore no vetoes, because they're
imagine the 500 years in which the First Nations of Australia were living in difficult times. Let's put it in that perspective.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, but they don't look at it like that, do they? They just say they don't care about that. They don't care about that, do they?
They don't. So no. I think it's going to be a resounding no on October 14th.
Well, you never know. You never know these days, because referendums are a strange thing. I mean, look at Brexit. I mean, it was very close, the outcome, but I don't think most people expected it to be a Remain outcome. Most people, and I think a lot of the people who were behind the Leave campaign were actually surprised, didn't actually seriously believe that they would actually win it. You never actually know how people's minds are going to be until the actual day itself. You could just say, I'm going to vote yes, I'm going to vote yes. And on the morning of the referendum, you hear some politician talking on the radio or watching on TV, or you read a newspaper article which sways you the other way. You just don't know.
It's that fickle. Referenda are very
fickle, and opinion poll. Forget opinion polls. I wouldn't even. Obviously, there will be lots of opinion polls because it's a big deal, but I wouldn't pay attention to them, to be honest.
All right, we're gonna keep a close eye on this thing. October 14th is when it takes place.
Yes, about just over a month away. We will report back on the outcome and anything else significant surrounding the referendum.
Exactly. And in the meantime, our next Wenzzzday Ting will be next week, which is September the 13th. Join us then. No idea what we'll be talking about then. I hope I find the time to come up with my own topic again, DJ, because I like the dynamics when there's two topics.
Sure.
And at least that gives me the chance twice to get all worked up. Now I get only one time. So
yeah, but it's not
Wednesday,
always a worked up thing. It can be a nice happy thing. So
yeah. So far, all the nice happy things ended up me getting worked up still. Maybe that's my character.
yeah.
So
Oh,
hope to see you then, DJ,
yeah, me too.
on the 13th. And I'd like to say, let me properly close the. Thank you all. Let me just do a final comment. Thank you all for watching. There you go. At least that looks great. Thank you all, people on YouTube, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn for watching. And we'll see you again next week. Won't we, DJ?
Yes, we will.
All right. Take care of yourself, DJ. And
You too.
see you.
Okay.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
PocaTV, Wenzzzday.